Hey everybody, Craig Renz here, and today I am going to be talking about the book 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. And this is a part of a 30-day series that I'm doing for myself. 30 books in 30 days to kick off 2023. So I am using summaries to get through 30 books in 30 days. But there are some very good resources out there. I use Heroic as an app by Brian Johnson. And they do book summaries. You can find them on YouTube under Philosopher's Notes. Heroic is the app and the program that I'm involved with. But on YouTube, you can go to Philosopher's Notes and find all kinds of cool summaries. So I'm leveraging a couple other sources like 4-minute books, short reads, and I'm doing 30 books in 30 days. So I'm just going to talk quick about 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. And if I was to summarize this book, it is a stern, story-based, and entertaining self-help manual for people that lays out a set of simple principles that can help us become more disciplined, behave better, act with integrity, and balance our lives while enjoying them as much as we can. One of my favorite quotes from the book, Jordan Peterson says, "It's all very well to think the meaning of life is happiness. But what happens when you're unhappy? Happiness is a great side effect. When it comes, accept it gratefully, but it's fleeting and unpredictable." But the goal of these 12 rules is to make that a little bit more predictable. But on some level, we do need to accept that happiness is fleeting and unpredictable. I always try to set up my life for happiness. True happiness, including balance of all the different areas of my life. And I would agree that that's what Jordan's after here. 4 words every writer is dying to hear at least once in life. 1 million copies sold. But you wouldn't expect to hear them 4 months after the publication of your second book. Then again, Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life isn't just a book. As for his first one, Peterson spent years collecting and refining the ideas that would create a sort of blueprint for a good life. This time, however, the book didn't flop and sell less than 500 copies. Since its publication in January and Peterson's accompanying world tour, 12 Rules for Life, completely exploded, dominating bestseller lists around the globe. Suddenly, millions view, listen to, and follow Peterson on social media. He's racked over 60,000 in monthly donations through Patreon, and of course, 1 million copies sold. Whether he's just struck the right nerve at the right time or put his finger on true significance and meaning, only time will tell. But with thousands of people messaging him how the book's changing their lives, chances are good it's the latter. Let's look at 3 of his 12 rules to begin to find out. 1. Sweep in front of your own door before pointing out the street is dirty. 2. Treat yourself like a child you're responsible for. 3. Aim to do what is meaningful, not convenient. These 3 rules form the premise Peterson's book is built on, and thus the context for understanding why it's been such a success. So with that said, let's go. Lesson 1. Before you judge the world, take responsibility for your own life. Life isn't fair. We all learn that lesson one way or another. Some of us sooner, some of us later, some in small ways, some from terrifying blows. But we all realize it eventually. Like the Russian writer Leo Tolstoy, who in his short philosophical piece, A Confession, concluded there are only 4 reasonable responses to the absurdity of life. These are a little hard to swallow, but there's only 4 responses to the absurdity of life. Number 1, ignorance. like a child refusing to accept reality. Pleasure, like an addict on a hedonistic treadmill. Suicide, dark, but yes. And the fourth is to hold on despite everything. So even though he concluded suicide was the most honest answer, Tolstoy himself chose the last option, forever struggling on, which tells you a lot about his and Peterson's belief about a good life. No matter how unfair life gets you, no matter how unfair life gets, you should never blame the world. There's always someone who suffered worse than you. Besides, even though the future may look bleak sometimes, if you can focus on taking responsibility and keeping your own house clean, so to speak, you'll find the bad times will pass. Lesson 2, care for yourself like you would for a loved one. Have you ever gotten a prescription from the doctor and thought, nah, I don't need that? Over 1/3 of people do it regularly. According to Peterson, it's neither smart nor smug. It's a subversive form of self-punishment. We do it a lot, and as a result, tend to take better care of others than we do ourselves. Peterson suggests that this is a consequence of our inability to deal with the insanity of life described above. Just like Adam and Eve had to taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge, we too indulge in our dark sides from time to time, and thus, we feel we deserve punishment. But as with the unfairness of life, we all get thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Like yin and yang, we all carry both light and dark inside us. One can't exist without the other. That means instead of just striving for either one, we should seek balance. Do what is best for you, even though it might not always make you happy. Lesson 3, seek meaning through sacrifice, not happiness through pleasure. Balancing your light and dark side can take many different forms. Sometimes it may be staying in bed to get healthy, even though you want to work. Other times it might mean staying late at work on Friday. However, it looks like it always involves choosing meaning by making a sacrifice rather than temporary happiness by choosing pleasure. Peterson says this is a great coping mechanism because it helps balance your life between drowning in hedonism and being so righteous that it drives you mad. Of course, not all sacrifices are equal. Those you make for personal gain, like working overtime to pay for a vacation, hold less meaning than those you make for the greater good, like volunteering on a Saturday. Even though it might feel like it when you do it, sacrifice is never really about giving up rewards. It's about deferring them until you can get something even better, usually a feeling of wholeness or contentment. As such, it's also great willpower training. I'll leave you with an analogy Peterson makes. The lotus flower starts out at the very bottom of the lake, drenched in darkness. Inch by inch, it grows its way towards the surface until eventually it breaks through and into the sunlight. I could sure think of worse ways to spend a life than to be a lotus flower. So here's my review. I've gotten around to reading the full book. I haven't gotten around to reading the full book, but I would like to. It's full of stories, myths, science, a broad mix of engaging ways to get this message across. It's mainly targeted to male millennials, though. But don't let that stop you. There's something for everyone in 12 Rules for Life. Who would I recommend the 12 Rules of Life to? I would say that this book would be interesting to the 27-year-old college student who's worried because he or she hasn't figured out life, or the 48-year-old parent who's in a crisis because he or she thinks he's too old for this, and anyone who's feeling lonely and depressed. So I find Jordan Peterson extremely interesting. A little hard to stomach sometimes for some people. He's very raw. He's very upfront. He pulls no punches, and that's what I appreciate about him. Even though he may say things that I initially question, I know that he's a man of great thought and great intention. And so whenever he shocks me, I kind of take that in and say, I wonder where he's coming from with that. And there's usually something behind it, whether I agree or not. We don't have to agree with everyone. But I do find that Jordan has some, let's say, shocking ideas sometimes if you dig into his YouTube or social media. But there's quite often a lot of thought. He's a very deep philosopher. And I think this book, 12 Rules for Life, is very applicable in these times and very upfront and clear and entertaining as well. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you find this book as interesting as I do. Tune in for the next one. Peace.